Hey, welcome. Demetrius Sullivan here. I come to you today with tips on sales and internet marketing, everything you need to blow your business up. And today, you're going to like this. I'm going to basically talk to you when you're on the phone doing cold calls. This is for all the people that do cold calls, that still believe in cold calls, that definitely have their way of doing it and want to have information on how to improve. I can definitely help you out with that. Here's a quick tip. We're going to talk about how to get past the objection. Oh, the manager's not here. Call back on Friday, or call back tomorrow, or call back whenever. When that person is probably, not all the time, but that person on the phone is probably the manager. So I just basically want to share some tips. So in order to get past that, the first tip would be to be enthusiastic. Now, what I mean by that is when you're on the phone and you're being enthusiastic, that sets the mood. Enthusiasm is contagious. And if you're enthusiastic, then that could be passed on to the person who's on the phone. So what I noticed, I tried different ways. I was cold calling and my voice was normal and not enthusiastic or whatever it is. That kind of sets the tone for the call, and then it's easier for them to reject you or hang up or whatever it is. But I realized that if I was a little bit more enthusiastic, then that could bring them into the phone call a little bit more, and then it would be a little harder for them to hang up the phone if there's this energy, if we have a positive energy going on. So definitely be enthusiastic is the first tip, even if it feels fake to you. Now, maybe you're not the kind of person who is bubbly or that kind of person, but for this call, to get this sale, to get past that objection, you definitely want to be enthusiastic to break through, because there's a lot of people out there, and clients and companies, they get a lot of calls from automated phone calls, robots and things like that, and then also boring salespeople who call in for their services and they sound boring and they don't sound interesting. So it's easy for you to say, like, look, no, I'm not interested, or whatever it is. So yeah, that's the first tip. So the second tip would be, you have to ask the questions. Now, here's some questions you can ask. So when you're on the phone call, you can basically start the call off like you're a customer. So, for example, my company name is Code Help, and we basically do cold calls for people who need web design. And we start the phone call off like, and there's no right or wrong, but this is how it's effective for us when it comes to that. We start the phone call off like, hey, I was online, I saw your number, I saw your company online. Do you all have a website? So this is a question that they can't say, oh, is this a sales call? Or is like, what do you, some people say, what do you want to know for? It's crazy because I'm just asking one question, but most people will answer that question because it's a general question. So I get that information, and I ask them, do they have a website? You could also do this for other services. If you're selling, I don't know, I'm not sure what that would be, but basically if you're selling a service to where you know that they need it, you could start off the call by asking about their service or whatever it is and inquiring about something, and then you can go into the pitch later. So what as far as an example, I start off by asking them, do you all have a website? If they say no, then I ask them like, oh, is this the manager? So the majority of the time, we're calling small businesses that usually they don't have like a receptionist or a ton of employees and things like that, and a bunch of gatekeepers along the way. So most times it's the manager that's calling. Now I'm not sure, how you would approach this when it comes to businesses with a lot more receptionists and things like that. But what I do know is when it comes to small businesses, you can definitely catch who the manager is, because the biggest objection that at least we experience when it comes to cold calling is they try to hit us off with the manager's not here just so we can get off the phone. So no, I usually don't let that fly. So I asked them, is this the manager? They say, yes, it's the manager. So now I got past that objection. The manager's not here because they told me they were the manager. So after I find out who the manager is, then I go into the pitch and say, like, look, the reason I'm calling is XYZ. For your business, it could be what your starting pitch is. It's got to be a big claim to where it's going to hook them to where they're like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm interested in this. I'm very curious. So how we started off is like, the reason I'm calling is because we build websites that help companies in your industry double their sales. And a lot of companies are very interested in that. So it could be a number of different intros, but it's got to be a big claim to where it'll hook them and then it'll catch their attention. Then, after we go into the pitch, you ask them, do I have your attention? Or, that's one way. So you want to definitely get them to talk. If you ask them, after you go into the pitch and say, like, look, here's what I do, here's how we can help you, do I have your attention? So from that point, it starts the dialogue. It gets them to speak to you so that you can start the qualification process. So that's when we go in and we ask, hey, okay, that's fine and everything. Why hasn't your business gotten a website yet to sell more, whatever it is? So you definitely want to ask a question that's a benefit at the same time. Because me asking them, oh, okay, why hasn't your business gotten a website? I mean, that could be answered by, oh, well, because we don't want one. We're not interested. But what you can say is, why hasn't your business used a service like this to help you sell more or get more customers or to grow your business or whatever it is? So you can start it off, so you can end it off like that. And then they're going to be more inclined to answer because that's what they want to do, and that's basically what you're providing. So if you're not talking to the manager and you're talking to a receptionist or a person who just answers the call, then you definitely want to take interest in that person that you're talking to, because they are the key to get to the decision maker that you really need to talk to. But you don't want to bypass them if you're not talking to a manager, because they're definitely not going to let you pass them if you don't talk to them, or if you don't at least let them know what's going on. So another thing that people who answer the phone, they try to do is they'll also try to say, oh, the manager's not here, or call back another time, or we're not interested, or whatever it is. But let's just say they say, call back, the manager's not here, I'm not the manager. And then what you can say is, oh, okay, yeah, that's completely fine, I understand. But basically, I know that you are a very important part of this company. You know the manager a lot better than me. Why do you think the manager hasn't gotten this service or this, whatever it is, to grow the business or get customers? Then they're going to be inclined, most cases, they're going to be inclined to answer that question. So you might, if they do answer that question and they have a elaborate answer, they may be the manager. You never know. I mean, at this point, you don't know, but they'll give you the reasons that the manager or the company hasn't gotten this service yet. And then you're getting dialogue with that person that's on the phone. So you can continue to qualify, talk to them, get the needs, find out the problems or whatever it is, so that you can schedule an appointment with that person that you may find out that may be the manager, or you can get an appointment with that person who is what's called an influencer that'll get you to the person that makes the decision.